Attention. This is the show countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7.
And good afternoon. How's everybody out there in TV land? We are here today because today is a good day. If you tuned in today on the WCOB MTV network, you tuned to the right place because we get some of the most powerful songwriters, singers, and musicians in the land of the USA today on my show today. I'm so happy and I'm flabbergastedly happy. I'm feeling like, I could just go jog around the block and come back again and listen to a Switch album because I'm feeling happy. Ooh, so I just want to say today, before we get started, I just want to give you some encouragement today like I do all the time. And I know y'all tired of me using the word flabbergasted, but I love that word. I'm flabbergastedly happy. And I put a Lee at the end, if you notice, flabbergastedly happy today, because I got one of my favorite all-time groups that I grew up with, all of us grew up with. If you wanted to, if you were at a party and you wanted to slow dance, they would put a Switch album on, put on any one of the songs, and if the girl that danced on that, something was wrong with her.
Okay.
So you can always get a slow dance, And I'm just trying to school you. If you don't know Switch, you've probably been in a dungeon for a couple of years because Switch is one of the best. I would say, let me describe Switch. I would say the sounds of Switch. I wrote it down. What did I do with it? Oh my God, here again. It's the sound of funk, R&B, pop, and some slow down love songs, romantic slow dance music.
Where that came from?
With some powerful vocals and songwriting to boot. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you, I want to do a long introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you my favorite band, your favorite band, the best band in the land. Can't nobody play or sing like they can. I give you the incomparable, the powerful, the magnetic, the multi-talented Greg Williams of Switch, and we got Switch in the house, y'all. Come on, clap your hands, do your dance, stomp your feet, do what you gotta do.
I'm gonna clap my hands after that introduction. Thank you. Oh God.
Williams, we got Andre Pittman. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. We got Greg Williams, and we got Achille Nixon, and we got Philip Ingram in the house. Oh, that Ingram last name sounds familiar. Are you related to? Who are you related to?
Well, I got a lot of relations. Which one you want? But I'm sure you're speaking of my brother James. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, James Ingram and then myself. We're the two that made a living out of this crazy industry.
Right. Well, we're going to talk about this crazy industry and everything so the young people can get some vibes off you guys and learn what not to do and what to do. Is that all right?
Sounds great.
All right, let me start with you, Greg. I was doing some research on you. I always research people when they come on my show, and everything. And I'm just noticing you guys are dressed real nice as usual. What's going on with that? Y'all got this magnetic, great clothing wearing thing going on for all these years, or is that just the experience you got from Motown and you just decided just to dress nice all the time?
No, man, we took it to Motown, quite frankly. What you see is what we brought. Except with a little more,
right.
Okay?
All right.
And I thank you for the compliment, sir. That's what it's about.
Thank you. I thank you for coming on the show. And I want to start with you. I did some research on you because I was just watching the story, the unsung story, and I was just watching as you were telling the story about where you came from, first of all, and how you got started musically and everything. And some of the things I jotted down, but some of the things are going to pop in my head. I'm going to ask you. And I noticed. You're a young man, so you were born in 1954. Mm-hmm. A music genius was born in 1954. Wow.
Thank you.
And, yeah. And your mother sang in church, and your dad, he played jazz saxophone.
He did.
And then you have been playing trumpet since the age of 7. So I want you to take it from there. First of all, the first question I want to ask you is, when did you just learn how entertaining and the talent that you were, and when did you start playing live with your music and your trumpet?
Quite frankly,
go back. Hold up. I want this first question first. Hold that thought. This question right here, because you grew up. I noticed in the video you said you grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and your dad lived around the corner. Okay, what's that like?
Like living around the corner from your dad.
Right.
No.
If your mother said, go get a whooping around the corner.
No, it wasn't that deep. No, it wasn't that kind of thing. And what I meant, and I didn't get to expound on, is that we lived in two separate households. I was raised by my mother, just that simply. My dad living around the corner really had no interplay except for the fact that he should have been in my life, and he wasn't living around the corner. No offense to him, we became okay later. But that's all it was. That's all the reference was, is he actually did live a couple blocks away.
Okay. And I can appreciate that because, a lot of performers, when they do unsung or they do a show, like, oh, now I can see all three of you guys. At first I couldn't get. When you do an unsung television show or something like that, a lot of them don't give that information, but it's valuable information, especially for the young people who are trying to do it or going through the same thing that you went through with your dad and stuff like that. So that's the reason why I asked that, because a lot of young people watch this show. We got 7 million people watching y'all right now, and 7 million plus, because the 7 million was last year's stats. So
cool.
A lot of people are looking, and a lot of them are young people, and a great portion of our audience. They're learning right now. So let me go with my next question then. So you started playing at the age of 7, and did you start off with jazz? Did you start off
playing?
The
funny thing about it is I actually started out singing, and I did the kindergarten play as a vocalist. Okay?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there was only a few little school shows and church shows thereafter until I picked up that horn at age 7, and actually had my own band then too, a little band called Hot Five, me and a few more horn players. But anyway, yeah, I was doing a Louis Armstrong imitation. Some cats got it. Anyway, see, that's why we got the same jacket on. I knew. Anyway, yeah, but I started as an entertainer through that stuff, through school programs. It evolved. Right. I was in singing groups, stepping groups. What Unsung did omit from my thing, it did pick up. Everybody played instruments. I was talking about my mother's other 10 siblings. All of them played instruments, and all of them sang. Yeah. Okay? So I was surrounded by music all my life. There was no two ways about it. We had a few different family groups. I was the only one, like Philip explained about him and James, I was the only one that pursued out of all of those people.
Oh, I got you.
Okay, but I've done it all my life, man. I've done it, been in so many bands. I was in 6 bands before Switch. In fact, that's how I learned how to put a good band together, from getting out of all them old bad bands. But
so you were getting the band leader experience through those years.
I really was.
To learn how to, I know what it's like, and to try to keep everybody, all these guys in a band together, level-headed, and it's hard, and it's hard, especially on the band, the leader of the group, and all that. Now, so we're going to move on, because I got this great question I want to ask you. Inquiring minds want to know, about Switch. Before we get to Switch, because I want to talk about when you met. You went to you went to a school where you met Bobby.
Yo,
was Bobby the first one you met?
Yeah.
Switch.
Yeah. We came up together from age 15. We came up together. I met Bobby at there was a school choral group. And I met Bobby. Bobby didn't go to school half the time, but he did make it to where they was making music. And he would.
All right, so that was the Sounds of Soul.
Exactly, and that's where I met him at. He'd hang out there. And then after that, there were other bands. After he and I locked like that, there were other bands that asked me to be a part, and I would be a part if only Bobby could be a part. So we were with maybe 3 different bands thereafter.
Okay. Did you get together when y'all first met? Had a jam session? Y'all just clicked? Is that what happened?
No, he and I sat at that piano. After everybody stopped singing, he and I sat at that piano and played, and that's how it clicked. And then every day we'd meet up.
Awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Choir minds want to know that. And then I know there was a whole lot of things that happened from watching the Unsung story and all that. But you went band leader, and as putting this group together, that's what the first person you met was Bobby, and then you guys, then all of a sudden you met some more strong individuals that came into the group, and one of them was Philip Ingram, and name all the names that were switched. All the names that when you got signed with Motown, who was in the group?
Go ahead, Philip, please.
Okay. Well, it was Greg and Bobby and Tommy DeBarge, and they were from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And they were also working with Jody Sims, who was from Steubenville, Ohio, but Jody had also been part of White Heat with Greg and Bobby and them.
Yes,
Yeah.
very well.
And then Eddie Fluellen and myself, we were in a local band in Akron, Ohio, and that's how we ended up meeting Greg. White Heat and them came to Ohio, and our band was doing shows with their band, and we started becoming friends, when I was like 16 years old, so that's literally how long we've been hanging together.
So let me go back now. Greg, when you guys put White Heat together, you met Barry White, and I saw that story, and someone said that Barry White said sign them contracts, he's like a gangster with it and all that, is that what it really was? It was like, you going to sign this and you want to sign it now? Is that, is that what you get, like the Goodfellas thing?
Is there any cussing allowed on this show or not? If you want me to keep it clean.
I know what he said, wow. Wait, when you asked that question, my name got as high, my voice got as high as Achilles. But I never, since I've been doing a show, nobody's ever said the word that Barry White said when he said it to you guys.
So keep it clean.
We say ass on the show, but that's about it. Nothing.
Well, let me tell you. let me tell you what happened. We had these contracts. We had just met Barry. We had just driven all night from Phoenix, Arizona. The group that preceded White Heat was TNT Flasher. Okay? And they were out of Ohio. They were out of Steubenville, Ohio. My partner, Darnell, they picked up in Michigan maybe a year later. He called me and asked me did I want to be in TNT Flasher because they had a tentative deal on the table with Barry White. I told him I'll come if I can bring Bobby. Fortunately, the keyboard player and the trumpet player had quit, so they allowed me to bring Bobby. We spent 6 months in Phoenix, Arizona as TNT Flasher, not working, just practicing and learning songs for the record. We come out here to California. 13 of us in a van and a car. Come out here late at night. We get here to L.A. maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Go right down here on Sunset and La Brea, where Barry had his little Soul Unlimited production offices. We tired, we sweaty, we funky, and everything else. And 3 o'clock in the morning, and we meet Barry, and he kind of growled, and then they bring out these contracts. And these were some thick contracts, and we ain't never seen contracts in our life, but we know that, other than a Flintstone contract, which was made on granite, wasn't none supposed to be that thick. But it was. And bottom line is, I asked him, because they were just passing him out to everybody. It was his other people. And I said, well, Mr. White, don't we get an attorney? Sign the MF. And we signed it, and that's what it was. He just growled back at me just that quickly. Sign the MF.
Barry White was a true gangster plus musician.
Oh, that was one of his favorite words.
Oh man, it words. But that was good. If you got signed with him, you got signed. You right. Right. Now that's an interesting story.
That's great.
That's interesting. Now you've broken down for me like that. That's awesome. So now through the years after White Heat and everything, tell our viewers, the ones that don't know, because there's a lot of them that are trying to learn right now, including my daughter, she's an upcoming singer. She did voice and she did American Idol and all that. And we have talking about big families. There's 13 of us.
Wow.
I grew up with.
Okay.
But me and my wife, we got together. She had 5 and I had 5, so we was like the Brady Bunch. We got together.
Okay.
Wow.
To create this tribe.
Good for y'all.
So, tell us how you guys got together. How you got together. Then I want to bring Achilles Nixon in and tell his story and everything. But how did you and Philip meet and go from there, Philip, and then you guys kind of spawn on each other's story?
Okay. Yeah, what happened, like I said, Greg and White Heat, they were in Akron, Ohio, and I had their album. And so they were doing shows around the Ohio area. Our local band was doing shows around the Ohio area, and I was like, why are they here? So we ended up becoming friends and found out that they were just it was kind of like a holding place as to decide, what was going to happen with the band. After we did some shows together, like I said, I was 16 years old. Greg approaches me in October of 1976, and at the time he felt that the band White Heat had basically done all they can do, and I was in another band at that time, and so we talked, and he said he wanted to put together a group of some guys that could play, sing, look good, play. I mean, this was all Greg's vision. Like he said, he had been in these different bands. He knew what he wanted, and he said, the one thing I knew is the fact that they already had a deal with RCA Records. That was more than I had sitting in Akron, Ohio. So it was like, definitely want to check this out. And so we got together in December of 1976. Somebody gave us some money. We went to the studio. We did 8 songs in about 2 weeks, literally.
Wait a minute. You guys did eight songs in 2 weeks?
8 songs in 2 weeks. We practiced, and we just went in the studio and we did it. And at the time, Bobby was not a part. It was me, Greg, and Tommy, and we had this guy named Arnie Haynes. And,
okay, I got you.
So when they went out and ran, that story about running into Jermaine on the elevator, the tape that Jermaine heard had Arnie's voice and my voice and Greg as the lead singers, and not Bobby. And for some strange reason, which to this day we have no idea why, Arnie decided not to come. So if you're talking about some of your if this is appealing to some of your young artists, if they have a dream and don't go for it, it ain't going to happen.
That's right.
I mean, it's quite simple. So Arnie decided not to come. Motown was interested, and Jermaine was like, okay, I mean, we love you guys, but, that's when Greg said, okay, at this time, Bobby was willing to come out. He was clean.
Right.
Let's, how do you guys feel? We talked about it, because we had Motown interested in us based on the demo we had done.
Right.
And then, like I said, Arnie not coming, then Bobby stepped in, and then, they were like...
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, Greg, that's a great vision. And I commend you for that, because that's hard to do. It's hard. That's a big, hard accomplishment. Actually, and then, so in the studio, you guys had, let me read it up. You had Bobby DeBarge, Tommy DeBarge, Greg Williams. You had Jody. Jody was in there, wasn't he?
Jody Sims, yeah.
Jody Sims. Clark, what's his name?
Melvin Clark.
MC
Clark. Eddie Fuller.
Fluellen.
What is it, Philip?
It's Eddie Fluellen.
Okay. And then we had
but you can't
Philip
say that 3 times.
Philip Ingram. We had what is that? Give me the names. The rest of the names were in the studio with you when you guys created.
You just said them all roughly.
Yeah, that was it.
You did, basically. The only difference is that MC, who was an original member out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, he was right there with the nucleus of the group.
Okay, I guess.
But the thing of it is while we were recording the first album, MC had some difficulties that he left behind in Michigan, so he had to go back to Michigan and address them. And that's when Michael McGlury, who was actually our current guitar player now, he got involved, not as a member of Switch, but as a sideman, because he was already signed with Motown and as a producer and an artist himself.
And he was working with Jermaine at the time.
Absolutely.
And matter of fact, Jermaine told us, he said, don't worry about when Melvin was gone, because here we have a group with no guitar player. He said, let's focus on the record. When you guys go live, you can get a guy to step in. But he said, let's focus on the record. So it's like, okay. And Michael McGlory was like I said, already working with Jermaine, so he was definitely the perfect fit.
And he was in... Oh, go on.
Go ahead. Finish that, Greg.
No, I'm just going to quickly say he was in... there was probably about 6 or 7 different guitar players that we used. But Michael was the dominant one. That's his solo on They'll Never Be. That's his rhythm on Best Beat in Town.
And I Call Your Name.
And his signature's all over all of those records.
Yeah.
So he did 90% of the Switch hits.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah.
And you had the satiny, strong, powerful voice of Philip Ingram.
Absolutely.
And, now, when you guys finally got the message that you have a hit album that was under the tutelage of Jermaine Jackson and you were signed with Motown Records, I mean, what is that like for these young people right now? I mean, I can't. I'm just thinking about it. I get flabbergasted happy. I wasn't even there, but I can imagine what you guys like. And y'all must have had a party or something. What's going on?
Well, I know for me, I was really, really, really excited because, like I said, knowing that Greg had already had a deal on the table with RCA, and here we were signed with Motown. With literally, you walk in, the Motown building, you see all these legends that you grew up with, and now we're becoming a part of that. Then you have Berry Gordy himself saying, I love you guys. The only thing that's going to mess you guys up is you, which means he was behind us. And you probably heard me say on Unsung, the meetings we had with Berry Gordy was at his home. He didn't come into the office for us. We went to his home for him. So that tells you that he was definitely behind us.
So after the drug abuse came in, and things started going ballistic and everything, and berserk, and everybody's like, oh, y'all just like all these things were happening, and Bobby was missing, and you guys were going through some stuff, Greg, and I've been I'm band leader for a lot of bands that I came up with in Florida and Pittsburgh and all that stuff. So I know what it's like when you got somebody that's a major part in the band who's like a pillar of your show, acting, doing stuff they're not supposed to be doing, and you have no control over it, and then all of a sudden you become a part of the drug abuse, and sometimes we get caught up in our friends and all that kind of stuff, and we become a part. And then when I finally came in, because I noticed on Unsung you just say that the drug abuse became a part of a few of you guys. So I know, and and we're going to tell the young people right now that drugs will tear a band up, a singer up, or anybody, even your manager if they do them, and all that kind of stuff. But you're still here to tell the story. That's the main amazing part about it, and all that stuff. But going through that process, and just seeing Bobby going through that, till the end. Can you tell us about that before I want to move on to Achille, and I want to hear his story. But can you tell us about that experience with Bobby and Switch? Because nobody knew this stuff was happening.
Right.
She was happy guys just singing.
Okay, let me share this first of all. In my selection of individuals, something else was equally important to me. Besides the good looks, the ability to play all these instruments, the ability for everybody to sing their butt off, one of the most important elements to me was the camaraderie, the equivalency of personalities.
Right.
Arnie was that. Bobby was not that. Arnie could have rode this whole thing all the way out. I love Bobby. Bobby was my brother from age 15 years old. We were side by side in the trenches through different bands, including the White Heat and the Barry White and all of that stuff. I loved him that day one, and I love him today very much. Bobby, as you saw on the Unsung, had some personal tragedies that were much bigger than he was.
Okay,
and from my perspective and all the things that I witnessed and experienced with Bobby, they were never going to let him go. They were going to destroy him. Bobby was on a self-destructive course before White Heat. I identified it then and loved him and hung with my brother just the same, because I was able to keep some of that madness off of him as close as we were for all those years. But think about it. Now Switch has got Jermaine Jackson, Berry Gordy, and some major people interested. Now all of a sudden we're making records. Now all of a sudden we selling records. Now all of a sudden the public loves us. And then on top of that, everybody got something to put in our ear that tears down the unity. If you listen, if you're susceptible to that, it tears down the unity. And in a lot of groups, a lot of them are. Now the weaker links are more susceptible.
That's true.
And because of the things that Bobby had dealt with and come up with in his life, it made him more susceptible. And he was the first to go, realistically. Now, the drug thing, like Jody broke it down and said 3 categories, he was correct on the 3 categories to an extent. I can, of course, sit here and defend my position because I'm the one that realized I had a drug problem. It wasn't exposed to everybody else and everything else. That was my decision to say it and my decision to do something about it. Bobby and Tommy never had a decision. It was never a decision to do it. It was never a decision to not do it. They were victims from the beginning. That's the point that I want everybody to understand.
Yeah, I want you to pull that out, bring that out.
So they were victims from the beginning, and it never got any better, and it was destined to not get any better. And Tommy is still here 22 years after Bobby's passing. Tommy is still here, and Tommy still can't stand up. Okay? Yeah. So that's what happened from my perspective to that whole thing, But realistically, man, and I will shut up for a second. Realistically, the bottom line is, I really think Switch ran its course. Switch A. Now we're at Switch B.
That's right.
I wouldn't give all these other little things that we tried in between switches. Right. I might beat them with them, but I ain't calling them Switch. But anyway, this is Switch B, and we're moving forward.
Right. And I'd like to call you a walking, talking miracle. You made it through. That's a lot of stuff to make it through, you know. And now Switch, while you guys were together, you ended up getting what? How many gold records?
Well, we had one platinum. Our first album was platinum. The second album was gold. And that's what was so sad about the third album. Was definitely the album that would have,
the better album.
Oh yeah, that album would have definitely. That was the album with all that momentum we had. I mean, we actually jumped something like 80-something positions when that album came on in the first week, just from the momentum of the first two albums, and that was unheard of. I still have that article. But what's amazing about that is during that time, that's when Motown pulled back because the group was okay. Where you guys at, right? Like Greg said earlier. Barry had already put this money into the band. Where are you guys at? What's happening? The fact that they pulled back, didn't have the push, didn't have the pictures on the album, all that stuff, the album just kind of fell apart. And then we did our fourth album with Love Over and Over Again and had another top 10 hit. And then we started touring. And what Barry was doing at the time, his vision was the same vision that he had for the Jackson 5. He held them off until they had so many #1 records. Then he put them on tour. He told us at his home.
Sure did.
He had the same vision for us.
Sure did.
He was going to hold off till we had a few #1 records, then put us out there. So everything was there. The red carpet, you couldn't go no better. And so, again, when you start, like he said, somebody put something in your ear. At that time, Bob is like, okay, I'm the sound of Switch. I'm going to go on my own. Well, all that stuff is like, that messed up the group because we were a group. We all.
Yeah, you were a chain, and if one piece went bad,
And Barry told us that too. He said he says you're only strong. You're only as strong as your weakest link. I'll never forget that.
Yep.
18 years old, me and Greg riding home. I'm like,
Chain done broke.
Yeah, right.
Now you guys got Switch B, and which is still Switch A, but more improved, better improved. Now you guys got another link to the chain that came into the group. Who got that satiny, strong, powerful falsetto, and he's like very articulate young man. I saw him on it, and he described what the Switch sound was and all that stuff. I was like, look at this dude. And I remember hearing Love You Over and Over Again, and I said, Switch is back. Wow, when you guys came back with that song, and then all of a sudden, we didn't know what was going on behind the scenes with the story that you just told. But then after 2 years went past and all that stuff, you know what? And I said, then I found out a little bit about the story. I said, who's going to take this guy's place? Who could be a man that has a voice like that could sing like Bobby? What are you going to find? You're going to have to go to the North Pole and back and search all over the world. Find somebody with a voice like that, And then all of a sudden, I go on you guys' website and I hear this guy singing, and he's singing the Switch songs. He's hitting all the notes, and he's throwing in some of his own style in there. And I was like, look at this guy. I was like, this guy is before his time. He's doing some stuff from the past, and he's before his time. So, Akili Nixon, I want to give you your props, dude.
Thank you.
You came to a dynasty of musicians, and that's big by itself. But you came in and handled your business. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I want you, for all 7 million people, to understand the magnitude of what it's like to become a singer and Switch and handle your business and do it right like you did. Come on, tell your story. How did you meet Switch, and how did you guys come together?
I was actually working on a project in Oakland, California, and the guy I was working with, the producer, his name is Kenny Taylor. And we finished the album. We had finished some songs I had written and produced. And when I was done, he said, you write like Switch and you sing like Switch. Both of them. You sound like Bobby. You write like Bobby. I want to send this to Greg Williams. I said, okay. Because Switch was my favorite group in the world. And in fact, I had actually done a remake of one of their songs when I was about 16 years old, recording in Oakland. And so...
Which one was that?
It was Love Over and Over.
Oh, okay.
It was actually Love Over and Over. And, so imagine me singing. I'm 16, 17. I'm, singing the records. I'm doing Bobby's parts. My man Carl was doing Philip's parts because these were my heroes. Yes. And then all of a sudden I look up one day and I'm in LA and we're all eating together at Greg's house. It was
Now,
very,
go ahead.
very, very surreal. Now, at the time, it was all of us, but I should add, Tommy DeBarge was with us then. He was actually at Greg's house as well. Tommy was. He didn't. He didn't suffer some more of his calamities until a few years later. He was actually with us, and so imagine that surreal scene. I'm at the house with Greg, Philip, Tommy. I mean, imagine that. I was in heaven, total heaven.
Well, yeah. So now, you guys, since you got together, you got this new link to your show and all that. You know, I want the viewers to know, first of all, before I ask this next question that inquiring minds want to know, I want to know about your upcoming shows, where they can get your music, where they can buy it. People, you just can't just like Switch. You just can't just listen to them and slow dance to them, but you gotta patronize them. You gotta buy their CDs. You gotta buy their music. You gotta go to the websites and you know, be productive to what they were trying to do. So where can the people find your music? What's your website? And what's coming up for Switch?
I know that a lot of these young folks ain't gonna know about this, and a lot of folks outside of California probably won't. But I'm gonna do my Cal Worthington pitch for you. Our music, our history. We just put up the website www.switchentertainmentworld.com. I call it the All Things Switch website because it has our photos, our music, our bios, our history. It even has a store, you know, where you can buy a couple of merchandising audience. There's a page for my new book. And how I pitched the book, first of all, is to let you guys know, I think that Unsung did a great job with the 42 minutes that they had. But 42 minutes, you can't really complete a story about somebody's life.
Right. That's why I wish I had another hour with you guys.
Well, okay, we'll do that then, okay? We'll set that up.
That's it. Right.
Yeah, and
Switch part two.
Absolutely, okay, for real.
The B story.
For real.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, these stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually, I've written a book about it all. It's called Switch, DeBarge, Motown, and Me. My actual publishing date is September 25th, but they're doing pre-orders on the website now.
Wow.
You know, and even to pitch it, they're getting, a lot of people have gotten the first chapter with their pre-orders.
Good.
And I'm getting some great responses from just that first chapter, so. But bottom line, to your question, they can find us not only what we've done, but what we're doing and what we're going to do, because there's also a date page on there that tells what dates we've done and what dates are coming up and what's coming up for Switch. So there's all things Switch on that site, www.switchentertainmentworld.com.
Okay.
Now go see Greg.
And I know this audience, when I went to the website, you know, there's a different version with Kelly singing the songs and stuff like that on video that you got to see. This man killed it. He sang them songs. And so, you know, you guys, we need to, we need to be a good help to Switch, you know, and we need to, we're going to go to some commercials. Yeah, Patreons. What you say?
Patronize.
We need to patronize them. That's my wife. My wife is my manager. She's back there. She's my manager. Ain't
Thanks,
nothing
wife.
like my family is your manager.
Hi.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, and you know, because you are, you know, the past and the future of music and everything. And I commend you for coming on my show.
Thank you,
and
man.
telling part one of your story.
Absolutely.
And, I mean that full-heartedly. I want you guys to come back on, because in order to tell the full Switch story, you need like 2 or 3 hours. You know, I mean, because that's a lot to get in. You guys got a lot in and everything, but I need to hear more about you guys. And the audience, I know since they saw this, they're going to be hungry for more. So we're going to make this part 1, part 2, whatever you guys want to make it. Maybe next time when you come in, you can do a song or something like that.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
So we're going to go to commercial and all that, you know, because we got to pay the bills.
Absolutely.
We got to keep these lights on and all that stuff, you know. And we got to have to be able to have the shows that you want to have on this show and all that kind of stuff. What you trying to ask me, woman?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
All day.
Give it to our sponsors and all that stuff, y'all. So we're gonna talk to y'all.
We're
in a
coming
couple of
back.
minutes. Is that what we're doing, y'all, over there at WCOBM TV Network? You are watching the WCOBM TV Network in front of 7 million viewers. Right now, we got Switch and everything. We're going to take a break, and we'll see you back in soon in a couple minutes, y'all. Peace.